Mayshad chapter at Emory University. Today we're discussing Giving Back to Vulnerable Communities, our second workshop of the Be Who You Want to Be series. We have Matilda Aron, the president of the Ghana International Chamber of Commerce, and Nezha Alawi, founder of the Mayshad Foundation, to shed more light about their own philanthropic journeys. Nezha and Matilda have several similarities because they both do so much for youth empowerment in African countries. Between their two perspectives, one from Morocco and one from Ghana, they cover North Africa to West Africa. We will have a comprehensive understanding of youth and female issues in Africa, as well as insight into charity in general. My peer, Rachel, is co-hosting this workshop.
Hi, I'm Rachel, and I'm the VP of the Mayshad chapter. We are so lucky to have our two distinguished speakers today. These two women have been very influential, in affecting positive change in communities that are less fortunate than us. Miriam is going to start us off with our first question for Matilda.
Matilda, could you tell us about your unique story of growing up in Ghana and what makes Ghana so unique?
Well, thank you so much. It is definitely an honor to be here, knowing that the youth is taking charge, and we're seeing the remnant of it. So the unique story, when I really have to think of, I probably never even spoke about that. When I was in Ghana, I had the opportunity to be part of a group called Girls Brigade. And I don't even know where it comes from. I haven't even researched into that. And I realized that from a culture where you're supposed to be seen, not to be heard, and especially from a girl's perspective, that platform gave me an opportunity to realize that even if I am not loud, there's other ways that I can be heard. So my unique thing is, and then it allowed me, so I started joining other groups. And then from there, I joined the ICYE, was the International Christian Youth Exchange. That gave me an opportunity to travel to Switzerland. That's where I had the opportunity. Then I had my education in Switzerland, and from then, family brought me here. So from that little organization, kind of like a Girl Scout called Girls Brigade, gave me a platform for me to think outside my letterbox. And then from then on, the unique journey went on. And somehow I found a way to always, in Switzerland, I tell people that coming from these three countries, Switzerland, so I'm a Swiss citizen, US and Ghanaian, Ghana gives me an opportunity to see that I can do more, like Mayshad is doing. Switzerland really gives me the heart and mind to do for others, because, Switzerland, they are more like, when they're doing benevolent activities, they are the ones that teach you how to eat, how to feed yourself. They don't give you the food, and then US is like I can do all things, So there is, these three countries give me something. US is the go-getter, attitude. Switzerland is like, you can help every space you're in. It does not matter. If you do one, it's enough, so you tend to do more. And then Ghana, the opportunity the world gives me that I can help my environment, help my community. And so that unique experience with Girls Brigade helped me catapult my lifestyle of what I do.
So my next question, Matilda, Ghana is blessed with a democratic institution, but it still has more to accomplish. What needs to be done for charity and female empowerment? And could you give us concrete examples of how you do this work yourself?
Yeah, so I think probably from my platform, what I do mostly, what needs to be done is giving the youth more voice. Once the youth understand they do have a voice, they can also contribute, because we can do it all, sit up here and then try to do everything else for everybody else. So what I do most is, when I'm doing a project, I'll tell you a project I did, I involve the youth. If they are to be my cameraman, if they are to be my partner in the project planning, if they are, so then I enable them. It's not even they allow, I enable them to let me feel like they are in the driver's seat. And then I come up with so many creative ideas because they are the ones that are living there. Most of the time we go there and we create a program for them. We think it should work. It's not necessarily so. They know what works for them, but sometimes all they do need is for somebody to come in and say, tell me what you need and let me see what I can help you with. I'll use an example. 2013, I went to a small village called Elembele in Ghana. And I'd never been in a village before. I lived in Ghana. Ghana has cities and villages. I'm so sorry. I'm using my phone. I'd never been in a village before. So I was supposed to spend 1 week. I ended up spending 6 months because I saw so many needs and I saw that the youth were hungry, but they had no information to expand and, on their thought process, on their ideas. So I ended up staying there 6 months and it became my adoptive village. So every Christmas, I go there, I organize a holiday party with the member of parliament who is the governor there. We do so many things for the youth and then also do training for them so that they can take matters into their own hands, be it policy, be it, so I'm also encouraging them to also join the politics because in Africa or Ghana, most people think politics is only for certain people. But we all do know, especially what is happening here, that we all need to get involved in policies making. So my thing is giving information and then fixing whatever it is that needs to be fixed. So in the same village, for example, I was there and I saw a lot of farmers that have sugarcane. So I asked them, do you have a group? No, they don't. So I helped them create a cooperative. So when I identify the issue, I don't pass it on. I work on it, and I'm a boots on ground kind of person. I work on it. So we have a farmers cooperative where they're very organized in the sugarcane. And then last December, I had the opportunity to partner with an organization here. We brought a 40-footer container of books to the rural areas. Some of the kids don't have books. So we brought 22,000 books. Each and every kid, we had a Christmas party for about 6,000 children. Each and every kid went home with a book and something to eat and also education in terms of what they can do to better their life. So I am in the notion that if we tend to do that, we will not only create sustainable development, we will also create a mindset that also move away from waiting and expecting everybody else to do things for them. And when we think of Ghana's democracy, everybody is praising Ghana's democracy. It's because the people want, when you show people, I tell people, books change everything. You can turn books into bullets. And when you look at, there's a company here called Books for Africa, it's right here in Georgia. When you go to Books for Africa, you see that Ghana is the biggest receiver of their books. So when you kind of go behind the scenes and see they've been exporting books to this place for so long, it tells you how some of the mindset is changed because the education is a bit different. People want to learn, people want to, so information is everything. So for me, education, information, and also being very pragmatic. I am boots on ground, so I don't know, it's not like any other organization. The bigger organizations have their place, but each and every one of us need to understand that we are an activist in our own form. If it is a gathering 5 homeless people, we are all activists in our own form, in our own way. So that is how I operate. I am different, I'm boots on ground, and I'm personal about it. I don't know.
Thank you, Matilda. The importance you place on education is definitely very inspiring. I have another question, and what was one of the biggest challenges you had to overcome in this philanthropic journey so far?
Challenge is always finances. Challenge is always because you want to do so much, because you do something small and you see the impact and you want to do so much. And the biggest challenge is finance. Some of the challenge is even the locals on ground. So when you're going to do something like I do, you find a way to connect with the chiefs, you find a way to connect with the government, and you find a way to let the people know here, to know that I am here in your interest. So making sure you form relationship. I tell people relationship, healthy is so important. So those three things, and then the biggest one is finance. And so I try to find partners in the spaces that I'm in to see if they can help me do something, or the locals themselves, So the challenge is more, I'm a people person, so.
So, as you said, finance and relationships are two of the big things that you need to consider. So, how will the donations of glasses and books and the opportunity for eye tests impact the small community in Ghana, but also reach out to other nearby communities?
Mhm. So, like I said, not everybody can do it the way I do it. So you can find partners on ground right now because of the digital, call it digital distance, is closer than anything else. You can find a smaller organization and you can literally see some of the things they do. If it's via social media, then you partner with them. If you cannot be boots on ground like I do, but if you can be boots on ground, you find a village. And there is a need everywhere, even in this country. So if you find a need in a place, be intentional, be personal, connect. Africa is different, and I tell people, if there's any other African here, the community starts with the chiefs. The chiefs do listen very much. People listen to the chiefs. Those are the local leaders. Then we have the government and we have the people. Land is owned by chiefs. So if you go into a small area and you do not reach out to the chief, it's like coming to your house and you have a dad there, and I do not acknowledge your dad. And then I start just working with you. So it might work, but then you're missing a big piece of that relationship that can help you know what else is going on beyond that community, because the chiefs, they meet, they talk to themselves. So once people understand that culture, how a culture works, you go into a place, then it's easy for you to get in there, because the chiefs themselves, they want that kind of help. They want to partner with you to help their community. And I'll use an example, let me not stray from Ebola. From example with Ebola, I tell people that the Ebola probably would not have gotten out of hand if the conversation had been with the chiefs. When it started, it said, leave the dead bodies alone. Our culture, we have a way we bury dead body. So if a government official comes and tells me, don't touch the dead body, I'm not listening. But if a chief calls me and says, this is a culture, but in this space, this is what we're going to do, I listen to the chief. You know what I mean? Of course I will, but I'm saying if you're local, you listen to the chief before you listen to the government. So these are some of the things that if you don't know and you get in there, you bring a government official and you forget the chief, you are 50% done. To get 100% effectiveness, you need to connect on the local roots level. So that connection is important.
Thank you, Matilda. Building off of that, what was like the original inspiration that strengthened your desire to help these children?
The smile, first of all. When you go into that area, it's just, I am very organic. You probably know I'm very an organic person. The smile of a person is just so profound. My first village that I started working with, they told me there's a lady who has a daycare about 100 kids. So I said I was gonna visit, bring some books. I go there and just a few books. And I don't see a daycare. I see uncompleted building, no paint, and a bunch of kids on the floor. So I'm asking, where's the daycare? And they said, this is the daycare. Nothing on the wall, cement, like some completed, nothing. And I said, how do you teach these kids? Well, the parents drop them off and go do whatever they need to do, and this is a daycare. So I show them what it means to have a daycare. And I told them, even if you have pictures on the wall, this is something these kids are consuming when they're sitting on the floor. So I'm going to come back to Atlanta. When I'm coming back on my next trip, I'm going to bring you stuff. And she didn't think I would do that because the village is 5.5 hours from the 5.5 hours away drive from the city. So when I came, I went to Books for Africa right here in Austell, got all kinds of artwork, schoolwork that we can put on the wall. And I'm allowed, because I travel a lot, I'm allowed 3 suitcases. So I packed my bags with books and I went and I donated the next time I went on a trip. I got back about 3 months later. they had tarred the floor, they had painted the walls a little bit, and they have all these things on the wall. I do know that these kids that are sitting on the floor, even looking at the wall, are learning one or two things. So this is how, like I said, I do my things a bit different. I don't look at the bigger picture. I look at the little impact it's making in these kids' life, and then I partnered with also the governor in that village, because he was here in America. He studied in Maryland and went back home. One thing he went and did was to provide electricity, make sure they have running water and the roads are done. So I'm looking at his thought process. He said, I provided electricity so that the kid can study under the lights 2-3 hours longer, because before they had no electricity. So he took baby steps. But when you now go to that village with him collaborating, you see that now from that village, when they do tests, for example, the student tests higher than other areas. So that tells me that something is working with the way things are being done there. So I am very personal and intentional about these little spaces, because, like I said, we always come from the top up, and there's something that is always missing in between, because I am coming with the project. This is how it's done. Maybe the villagers don't want it. I don't know. I work with Virginia Littlejohn. She was in charge of UN Women. She gave me an example. She said there was a program they did in India for like 3 years, 3 years in a row. And they kept putting money in there. One time they put an Indian, which is diaspora, to go there. And then the city in India told the lady, the program is not working. So she said, why didn't you tell us? We've been doing 3 years in a row. She said, because it's a gift. You come and giving me something and doing something. We do not reject gifts. We know it's not working, but we look at it as a gift from you to us. So then they had to reprogram everything else to make it, tailor it to the village's needs. So I believe in go to the people, find what they need, use what they have to build them up. Yeah.
So that's really amazing. Like seeing this really great impact you're having today. How long did it take you to grow your organization to the magnitude that we're seeing today?
So when you look at it, my organization does not focus on social development at all. My organization is Ghana International Chamber of Commerce. That focusing on businesses, business to business. The other call that I had before I came out was with World Trade Center Savannah. So we're focusing on the businesses. So what I'm doing with the businesses is, once I get a local company in Ghana, I gear their mind towards what I'm doing social. That one is not a registered. I find partners that I work with. It is something that I do out of my own will, because it's just who I am. So I use the platform of the Ghana International Chamber of Commerce, which was started in 2012 only, and just gain attention of the governors and the embassy within 3 months. So within 3 months, we're hosting the Ghana president and all that. So I utilize that platform to bring that awareness even to the local businesses, that they can also contribute to some of their contribute to fixing some of the issues that the country is having. So my conversation, like I said, I'm a bit different. My conversation and approach is different. I take things from Switzerland. I'm sorry to say, we are very hands-on. We do things differently, and even if it's in recycling, we do things differently. So, and it works for me and the people that I do serve. So it's not a time frame. It's just what you do with what you have and the heart that goes with it. There has to be a connection, social connection to everything else that we do. Then we have the effect, the multiplying effect that we are all looking for.
Thank you, Matilda. So I have a question for Nezha now that kind of stems from what we've been talking about with Matilda about her cooperative. So I had the honor to witness the artisanal work of the women that Nezha helps in Morocco when I visited the cooperative. How do you make your work sustainable and the women you aid independent of your help?
So, like I said, mine is a bit different from Mayshad. Mayshad is very organized and in that space of what you're doing. Mine is I come into the space on the platform of the chambers, and there is a need, I fix it. Like when I talk about the farmers cooperative, I got there and I realized that they needed an app. I didn't think about it. I didn't even ask anybody. I brought a team together. We built an app. We use the app to collect data on the farmers, find out what their problems are, what they are looking for, how many acres they have, and we started working. So then I started finding partners. So I'm kind of a bit different. Some people will build it and start going, and I do it, and then I find partners and solutions that fits in there because around my circle and my contact, I know I have a lot of people that want to do something. They just don't know what. So I also bring them the opportunity for them to tap into add their resources in growing this area. And like I said, for me, each one teach one. And it's not, I never think of, I have two daughters. I said, for me, when I mount a stage, when I go anywhere, I'm speaking to one person. Sometimes it ends up being 100% that take on what I'm talking about. But my target is only one. If one person gets where I am coming from and can initiate a change, it's good enough for me. So I am coming from the approach of it's not a one they call it 1 month thousand. It's not that, but it's just that I am in this space where I can wait. And when I started the chambers, nobody was doing it. So when I started going to Ghana, so many things were coming at me. So I had to be able to move back and forth. And I'll use an example. I have a 25-year-old, my daughter. She's now in Germany. She went to Vanderbilt, graduated public health, and then went and did her master's in Munich. She's in Munich. And she called me about 3 weeks ago, and she said, sorry to say, I have to get personal. She said, I get you now. Before I couldn't because I thought you go from A and then you go to D and then you go to, and I'm looking for you to go to A, B, C, D. But she said in these years that I've been doing this, she realized that I go from A to D and my D leads me to B, all right? And the B will go to H, the H will lead me to C because I was in a space where the women were depending on me. The African youth in this country were depending on me. They call me for any questions, anything, any relationship. So I couldn't say I can't do it. Let me find somebody else to do it. So I'm in the space where I've become a nerve center more for all these individuals. And, I work with the embassy today. They call me on the World Trade Center. So I'm a nerve center for all these different places. And I found a way to do it where it does not overburden me because I have the resources that I can transfer something over to, and then they just keep me informed. Unless I go on ground, boots on ground, and I do my own parties and all that. The party is phenomenal. That I can share some images with you. I don't know if I did. It's, yeah, you see the smiles on the faces.
I saw the images. They were great. I still have to share them with everyone.
Okay.
Thank you, Matilda. This question is for both Matilda and Neza. Why is it important to empower women and youth specifically?
Well, Matilda, first of all, thank you for your testimony because I totally relate to it on all levels. And thank you, Miriam and Rachel, for putting together this amazing event. So yes, so Matilda was talking about how youth is the future and how how important it is and how much hope there is in youth because they have that energy to carry leadership in the future, and they also are not completely formatted by the system, so the change can happen much faster in youth than in more senior generations. And so the other part about women, which is where the Mayshad Foundation has chosen to focus, it's because women are the mothers of next generations. And that whether we have kids at home or not is just, as women, we are those transmitters. And you see it very prominently in Africa, where you have villages and women are very strong, and they're the ones who will care beyond what the government. You think that if the government like doesn't bring water to their village, women are just going to stay silent about it? They're going to go and take like 10 volunteers, and they will dig a well in their village, because at the end of the day they need to feed their kids, and they need to. So what I personally saw when I did missions in 2011 for the World Food Program, and went to 5 different countries to witness the work that they're doing. I went to Mozambique, Ethiopia, Senegal, Mauritania, and Haiti. What I saw is that when a woman becomes a successful micro entrepreneur, she will always give back to the community. So if you empower them, then they will empower the community. That's one point. The second point is there are so many topics when it comes to helping women. There is gender-based violence, there is health, there is education for their kids, and so many topics that, as someone who's starting as a philanthropist, you're like, oh my God, where do I start? And then you realize, well, if I help her to have financial independence, then she will make the right choices for herself. Because the woman that stays in a situation where she's being abused, but she has to stay back, it's because she has 5 kids to feed, and that she doesn't have the means to feed them alone. So yes, she'll walk out if there is a center, like where she can refer to, but she'll pass by, and then she'll choose her kid's life over, like her own life. So that's where, when I created the Mayshad Foundation in 2014, I thought on how could I focus on one signature program that comes as an addition to the work that is already been done by larger organizations and governments, and come and like bring an extra solution. Because again, when you're thinking of doing an action, you don't want to compete with the governments, because it will be just like a drop in the ocean. And so try to think of like the different organization, private, public departments that are doing something, and think of something that brings an immediate solution. To Matilda's point, uh, think of having a small impact, and then that small impact you can reproduce. And if you think of a big impact, you will think that you're too small for doing it, so you'll do it later when you're more successful. You'll do it when you will group, like a 100 or 10 people, like around you. Or when you will have $1 million to that you have raised. And so small impact, and that's something that I would love us to get back to, and also have Matilda give you advices on what could you do tomorrow on creating impact around you. So yes, so the Mayshad Foundation's choice to go into women was because there was that giving back to the community, which was a multiplying factor of impact.
Matilda, we can't hear you yet. The mute button should be on the side of the phone.
Maybe you can unmute her.
Oh.
You can help her with that.
I'm working on it. Seems to not be working right now. But moving on, and we'll go back to Matilda on this question. You guys explained that there really is a similarity between North Africa and West Africa, because both regions have one very interesting thing in common, which is the youth bulge, meaning that there are more youth than elders. And I think it was very important how you explained why we need to invest in youth and women for intellect and versatility in the future, because they will give back to the communities themselves. And Matilda, if you could talk a little more on the subject.
Yes, and I would like to add also to talk a little bit more about the program that we put in place. So how can we bring an innovative solution and not just compete with things that are already being done, and not go and start from scratch either? And so the idea was, okay, a lot of organizations like the United Nations and other have invested in creating women's groups. It's women's cooperatives. So you take, like a group of 20 women that are producing the same agricultural products, and so they will group them into a group of cooperative where the government or the organization will buy them common tools to use for their production. And then so instead of each being a weak micro entrepreneur, they put them together, they produce together, and then they share the revenues. And so that worked very well because women do work in team, and they were very happy. They're producing, they're poorly selling, because in Africa, when you get out of the big city, like the capital and one or two cities, there are so many cities that are in reality like rural parts. And so those women would be in places where they cannot, they're looking for the tourists to come, they're looking for someone that has money to come and buy their production, and it would be, so they would have trouble selling, and they wouldn't even know like if they're making profits or not, because like they're hardworking, they're selling a little bit, and they're just like happy producers. And so what we decided to do is, with $10,000 that we would raise, we would buy them equipment that they need. So we would make an audit of the cooperative. And so we helped a lot cooperatives that produce couscous, other ones that produce argan oil. So we will see what are their needs, what do they need, and we'll train them into having a better like capacity building, better production, and we'll give them some financial skills and accounting skills. And then once the product, that cooperative went through that incubator program, then we would help them distribute the production.
Thank
And
you. Thank you, Neza. So what's like the most important lesson you've learned so far, like in this humanitarian journey that can really help us progress on our own to affect positive change in various communities, especially just being college students, like we probably have like a lower like capital, like being at a younger stage. And I was just wondering what your best advice is going towards this.
sure, I think, the word philanthropy is very, very impressive. And when you talk about having a foundation, you think about Bill Gates, and being philanthropic, you think of a woman who has a lot of money, inherited a lot of money, and is suddenly, like helping. And so, and I think it shouldn't be that impressive, because in reality, a foundation is just a structure that you can set up for $100. And being a philanthropist is someone who is a humanitarian that creates impact around them. And so I think like the biggest, like scaring turn off for people to engage into humanitarian is to think that it's like a big thing that they need to choose to either do that, or they need to kind of like give up on their business and their for-profit life, and engage in this for a lifetime. And so really, like, if you think of it as a small action, like right now during COVID, and this is something that I would like to think of with all of you by the end of this 4 month. What is it that we can do, really, like with $5,000? Okay, what is it that we can do? And the smaller the amount is, the more, like, if you want to have like a large impact, you need to be more innovative about what to do. And sometimes, just an example, like Matilda, welcome back. If you're an owner of any business, just taking like 10% of your team and focusing on training people that have nothing to do, that have zero skills, you know, like compared to what you're looking for, and taking them from no skills to building a skill. And then instead of keeping them because you've trained them and you're like, okay, I spent money training them, let's keep them. No, I want to place them in another restaurant, and I want to leave that 2 3 spots that I have in my restaurant to train new people. this is this is an amazing humanitarian and philanthropic act. And by the end of like 10 years of entrepreneurship, you would have trained 30 people or 40 people and saved 40 families with it. And those people, once they've been trained and given a chance like this, you know, send them with that spirit of you are due. When they will tell you like thank you, how can I thank you, you tell them just keep training other people on your path, keep giving chances to others. So that's the way to do it. It's just to opening up and being there for others with your own skills.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, as you stated about a small good action, Matilda has actually stated in her interview with Africa Business Portal, a small good action is better than great intention. Matilda, could you elaborate on this?
Yes, I am so sorry. I was using my phone and it just died on me. So,
No.
yes, so like it was just presented that training one person, that is the small, good action is when you train one person, like I was saying, that can train a million persons. You never know who you're training and the capacity that they do have, so that small good in action is definitely that what is being spoken about. And I missed the part of, let me go back, the why women and youth, and I had something to say about it in terms of women. And women definitely want to take care of their children. Not that the men don't want to, but they have a different compassion to taking care of their children or taking care of the community. And then the youth. If we are going to look at even what is happening around the world, without the youth, we will not have that kind of impact. And the youth right now see no bridges, they see no borders, they see no lines. So if we are going to engage the women and the youth, we know that we can definitely foresee a better future, in terms of where we're going, because we all don't want, I'm a mother, I don't want to leave this world to my kid in this state that I found it. I want it to be better. And seeing that my kid is coming in saying, what can I do to help? Most of the youth right now, if you give them the information, if they work with you on information, they are not afraid to share information to present to you what works. And the women, like I said, if it says it takes a village. When you say it takes a village, I'll always go back to my cultural background. It's the queens that make the kings in Ghana. Without the queen, there will be no king. So the queen is the one that institutes a king. And then when there is a problem in the community, it's in a village, you come to the queen mother first, who will then tell us what to do. And then the king basically sits up, and then it's not like this everywhere. But when you look at how it is instituted, it was instituted for a reason, because it was definitely defined that a woman would always give back to the community because they don't want to see a kid hungry, especially from where I come from. So the position of the woman and the youth is more important than ever, because the woman will make sure the family is provided. The youth is making sure we have fairness, we have equity, that something is built for them, especially Gen Z. I always have to say that the millennials did a great thing where they were bold going forward. My generation, we just had to build. We just had to build for ourselves and our little families. The millennials came in and said, give me a cause and I would do something. And Gen Z are coming in and taking both. I want to build, give me a cause, and I do not care because everybody is my brother and sister. So we are going into a place where we have to even empower more youth. When you look at Ghana, I always have to go back because I have to have examples that works. When the COVID-19 hit, I saw youth coming up with creative ways of creating hand sanitizers, creating hand washing things. It was none of us. It was but the youth. So if we give the youth that kind of platform, they will be able to create what works for them in their societies and their communities. And the woman, I did a program in Ghana, and the women, it was so amazing. um, a guy came in and gave a lot of money. So what we did was, before you give the money to somebody to trade, you train them a little bit in terms of how to save. Take the 10% here, take the 20% here. But then another thing we did was, you have to bring two other people to vouch for you. When your business is good, right, then we can give the same money to the person that held you accountable, came in about better for you as a guarantor. And because they guaranteed for you, and they know that if your business is successful, they will also get something to start your own business. If you are cutting apples, they will make sure that you cut the pepper or whatever food that you're cooking, because your success is dependent on what she gets. And she will have to bring two other people from the community. So it was so successful, very small. But the women realized that it's not a competition. It is helping the other one go forward, will enable me to go forward also. So if they are making, I don't know what we have here in Ghana, I use it, if they are frying fish, one woman that is waiting to get funding for a project will make sure they put the salt on the fish for you so you can be faster. Because when you're successful, they also get something. So these are some of the small actions that we take that really, really, really brings profound results in the communities we're trying to serve. So with Mayshad, I am so honored and humbled with what you're doing. It is, the impact is having, is what we need to be able to grow this world in a positive direction. So that's it.
So now, Matilda, we have some questions from our audience. Brianna has asked, what initially inspired you to enter into business, investment, and trade?
You want to know the truth? No, it was a need. My background is a computer systems analyst. People don't know, I'm a computer geek, Unix specifically. So I worked with Bell South, AT&T at some point for quite some time. So I was a people person, but not really a people person. And then I think the Swiss consulate, Claudio Di Carvalho, asked me a question about Ghana, and I had no idea. So he said, a lot of people ask questions about Ghana. At that time, Ghana wasn't very attractive here. So you might want to set up a platform and then start informing people, because you seem to be able to fill in that space. So it was that inspiration. And I was also coming out of, you guys are young, I have to say, really, really not too good at relationships. So I had, sometimes when certain things happen, you have a drive to make a change from where you're coming from. So it was very personal place I was coming from, that I needed to make a change. I wanted to make a change for my girls to see you can do it. So I had no idea it was going to be successful, but I just wanted to pull through and let my daughters see that you can do things on your own in the space. So it was a drive for my daughters, I guess. Yeah. Any other questions?
Sorry. Thank you, Matilda. That's a really inspiring answer. So our next question is from Tess, and she asked, what are the most important values that you demonstrate as a philanthropic leader?
If it's me personally, the value is going into a village and throwing a party for 6,000 kids and making sure everyone goes home with a book. And there is something behind the reason why I decided to stick with books. About 3 years ago, I threw the same holiday party. And I went on liquidation.com and bought all my gifts, watches, and everything else. I go to this village, and then I also went to Bookspot. They gave me a pallet of books. It wasn't that much. So I had like loose leaf of papers. I mean, literally loose leaf, like the printer paper they're not using, and books. And the kids didn't want the gift that I brought. They wanted the books. They wanted the papers. And I'm sitting there thinking, I give my daughter an iPhone and she is coming in and saying, there's a scratch on it. Here I am bringing watches and everything, and these kids want nothing but loose leaves of paper so they can write, the pencils, the books. That inspired me and made me realize that these kids are hungry for knowledge. They're hungry for information. They don't want me to come feed them, give them gifts and go away. They want to learn what I am doing. They want to talk like the way I am conversing with them. Some of them will come and say, how do I? What kind of books are you reading? Even some of the youth, and I say, I'm not reading anything. I'm just, so I show them. So it's more their hunger for something made me want to do more with the books, with the education and all that. Yeah, in the party.
So this answer, I believe, leads into the next question we have from Anne. She says, you said you are invested in foot on the ground type of work where you can see people actually smile and the fruits of your labor. How important do you think education is in the bigger picture? And is there something we, the US, can take out of this that we can apply to how we are tackling all of the issues going on in the US now, for example, crime, police loans, housing opportunities, education? And how can we start applying your work ethic inside our own communities to help those who are disenfranchised?
That's a big question, but I feel like that's a question for all of us, and for me. So, like I said, I am not technocrat like other people. For me, if you know who you are, it doesn't take much to ignite the fire in you. When I see like books all over the place, most of the time I am not represented in those books. How am I supposed to find that fire in my belly to do what I want to do? So if I don't go out of my way to understand the power that is within me, to do the research to find who I am, I tell people, when you're doing something, there's so many, do this is how you do it. But when you know the why of what you do it differently. So everybody has to understand the why. And the why is knowing who you are. So I'm still asking all of you, as you are there, understand that somebody from you that is not from your background, that has not the same demographics. Understand them, talk to them. That will encourage you to also do something for other people. So for me, when I go to the village, I want the kids to understand the power they do have just sitting right there. And I tell my children, and my daughter is here, I have a 17-year-old. I said, the only difference between me and them is I came to this world first. They could have come first. So I am not here as a, look down you, but as a guide because I came here first. I don't know as much as they think I do know. It's a journey. We are all going. So I'm very sincere with my conversation with the people that I meet, so that you don't think it is something out of the ordinary that somebody stands on the platform and all of a sudden is getting all these attention. It is in each and every one of us, but how do we encourage those people that are disheartened, discouraged, to understand that it starts with each and every one of us, so it's I don't know. It's very simple. It starts with each and every one of us, and I have to know who I am to want to stand on a bigger platform to give all that I can be to everybody else around me.
Building off of that, Anne had one more question, and she asked, how can we encourage people around us to get engaged and stop hiding from these small actions?
I think it fits into the same conversation. It's like I call it an awakening. Sometimes having a conversation, we tend to go in front of people and force them to see things our way. I grew up in Ghana, grew up in Switzerland, grew up here in 3 countries. The things I have seen, I cannot get somebody else who's never walked these three countries, continents that I've walked on to see. So if I come and I ask you, force you to see it from my perspective, I'm being doing you injustice because you don't know what I have seen. That makes me move what I move. All you can do is know who you are. That in every space that you are in, you can effect change. And effecting change doesn't mean you have to go protesting like everybody else. You can write something, or you can be a blogger. You can do, if change comes from, and I don't know what everybody's faith is, but everybody has a gift and talent. Once you identify your gift and talent, you realize that my talent is not your talent, but you can do something as a supporting, or I can be supporting. And I use the same example for my kids. I said, when I get on the plane, you probably have read this before. the most important person on the plane right now is a pilot. I don't know how to fly the plane. So I give the pilot all my energy, all my regard, and then the people that are working with the pilot to bring me to one destination. So at any given time, what is the tree that I can tap into to get the energy or get the resources that I do need? We need to find a way. Young people, you're doing that already, especially young. I said, I'm so impressed with the young people. I went on a protest, I have to bring it on Saturday. This is the first time I've gone out there and I'm seeing people from all backgrounds realizing that something needs to change. I don't think the parents got up and said, get out there. I don't think you are here. When we came, the first video that you showed, that means you understand that the person next to you needs to be heard. So if they can speak, you speaking for them. So we have to know the spaces we are in. And heroes are not made by sitting in a school and learning and saying you're going to be a hero. You do something that catches somebody's attention. Sometimes heroes are not in our attention sphere, and it's okay. So everybody in their own space, fear is all within you. You have to know you have a voice to add to everything else that is happening to you, to somebody else, to when I go to Ghana, I know I get in a lot of trouble. We have these women issues that are being, um, and I go into issues knowing that I can solve it. If I can solve it, sometimes I walk away. We have issues where women are being abused. How am I going to go into this home and tell this woman that is wrong? Have him stop. What am I going to do with him? I don't have a center to send him to. I don't have anything to do for that woman. I can talk to her, but I cannot talk to her to get out. When she gets out, what else? What next? So you have to know the space you are in, what you can do to effect the change, and then move into it. So tell people or whoever is asking that question that don't force anybody. Sometimes your action and your kind words will even make people realize that they need to be on your side or to need to be on the side of the good masses.
Thank you, Matilda. Our final question is from Vasilisa. She asked, how do you see emerging technologies supporting your work?
Emerging technology is supporting my work. The COVID-19, for me, the emerging technology is exactly what I'm doing here. COVID-19 has made us realize that we don't always have to drive or fly to a place to do what we need to do. So the emerging technology is having access to people in a very short time, bringing information in a very short time, because what I do primarily is information. And then beyond that, I can train, like even if it is a party I cannot get to, we're still moving goods. I'm using an example. I want to be there on ground to do my holiday party. But if I can get to it, we're shipping good. I can ship the good, literally set through this emerging technology or the technology and walk the youth through organizing the same thing that I've been organizing. So just using it in everyday life, making it become my eyes, my ears, my feet, and everything else is what emerging technology has done and will continue probably growing. So if all of you on this platform see what I'm doing and feel like there's a technology that could help us all do better, let you guys know and we'll make it happen. And another thing that I think we need to focus on as maybe Mayshad is there is a lot of young creators, more inventors out there that are not being looked at everywhere, and especially on the continent. I think Mayshad should probably start looking into, adding that part of it where you support young inventors, association or something in moving us forward. That's how we can, progress quicker than we are now.
I agree.
Thank you so much, Matilda and Nazha, for sharing. We have learned a great deal. By mobilizing the African diaspora to give back and empower others, these individuals will help and do the same for an impact across the globe. Thank you.
We really
appreciate Thank you so much.
Today. Yeah. And I'm sure that we all have learned very valuable information that we can use to inspire change in the future. Thank you so much for coming today once again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, Matilda.